대스럽 삼샤 용서 조바나 공성 시르브 딜라 제르샤 탑섬 니브름 종베 랑섬은 레 더너블라미 냥부 돈란지 데라 당보 네리 시바치 터버 원거 남바 망나 양이 비냥부 덴바 예르메데 데 상제 남지 상범 조칸 연나 데 이람진 고스라 이시데 동마메네 람진 주메데 동마메네 랍집 주메 다 냠카브전데 런점 디마시 람전 남도 데친 예니 베 나동 예르메 저서 조공메도 건 저버남 차더 나예 예르렌데 더 떡버데니 데브시르 추가나 제 덴바 예르메 접도 마츠메도 양라 나동 람전 니미테 덴바테 예르메 지스 조도 타르니데니 츠르디 라위에 난더터 츠르난 코르베 추르남 Dartan churun konum chanam gamabdin fluvshir kunzub dimbani zabji goxsir nyan debi chon yerme daran jan tondam dimbaran dodo kunzum dartar nazu Snowando dimachir dapchir wagzu nyanab jana ramjan me lat nawa kanyanda shindo taqbna Ажирца агмумеда бе нам картон жам цанида чапарте матаг нявга нацор гема авжана вагчым чыр темжер левшонва чыртырдатырай наважын дырдыржан тонлавдагмед ба тени тейгнелиг ембе шыр тондым жишар нанча конзорте нан динерне кезо ро сочба медарам жинте янып демба ермедо тейрамжын одне тагбарте огсыр тондым нис ерме бен корнде нимеде демба ермедо дыртырнан корама жбе рамжын мети Yang ji tondamda tarni zuzuru yevi chumeda pen kornde yermed nyamba nyeto tana tele jandır tobe lopi lo nelik tonla raptor momba yin chirngur chirtir nangwa Snam jin jimje yoda te shiro gerdi ulandur shibakchi yermed tondam dembe ranjan gosir dekshir nyambo lanjurte gosir ba yermed chunyada to dirtir ranjan lanjur chirngur 대 예넬 한 조상 저냥보 자나 남덕 저저 저거는 건담 저 자지 거당 이신 담저메드 더년로아 건라 요버 회 사고 때던 범능 마르메던 반너 건잠 케베시브르샤 저들 고르고 사고 그런 정들 랑라 요짱 마시 퐁바르타르 헌드산디 랑라 요저짱 링어 셈데 쪼르기드 세브르페 르페 니 쪼르이 겐더 퐁 텔라라이 머던 밈통네 어테르테 임제 젠바 탑튼 티숑 베 랑전 조라 퍼즈조 퍼즘 조바르타르 담바남기 네리테 담베 제브전 조바산디 랑레니 돈이 퍼즘 여브전 노르 겨 저트르밤나 조르메 고스르 양 범바 접테 저르마 모르타르 고스 냥부 추르카 랑라니나 양 저비 범베 접시르 용마르나 텔라밤바 쩨그나나 와르타르 사르남 저바칸 Charvana jirten drumme kanda namrashida chartaravana dekshar kayoda kya pameptam shur namameda tevjan zonzan dartonki evjebe ransar gyarbi wambo mtomani namji ndabma kapshik sarvartar ran zonzan chirnang dabma lechur tsev shanchur kasam rangla shanchur kasam Shang churka sam shang churka sam rang la nang jir de jir chang tong tong wok sir na rang la yo pa ne li shi param zo dan dala mangar nam chang mang yo te yang kon dem chang wa yang shi rab jo da chang ye ne yo pa rang chen han zhe ji zhe be zhe me ma zhe me zhe shir nyang bu kam dang na ne li yin shir tong dom dem ba dang do ne tang shir wok sir zhe ma me dam ta ni rab sir wen mi Ramjan dang zhu len de shir shir paro shanar tong sir nam dao dewa yer me dang panjir me be chun ni de de jen ni de la so mer dam kebe nam je do chen de me shir tong ba shang je ba zi de yon men ta zhi ji ma ya Charge me shir zhe ta jana tam ban de le shir jervi shir nam ke jen ta ri shi ber ron kan shir kan der tom be chu ji zo son ba ken ji nyam bo go sir che mo lam han zhe ji yin ne li de ji shan yang zhe ta yim ta de de shi be go zhe zhe le tak che de gen dang zhe zhe ba yo zhe mir de chang jia jam do ri gen le ta wi mi de na mi dang da na de shir ne li go sir ken ber zo de ta ba jen bo mang ko tam bo tam ju yi jin bo jen zo ne ne li tan lam ba be le ge te jor ge ba wo de er de ne li shi ni Tertamneli sene gombrasha tela tomar ngondo roana chawson rojan shanchu sem ki ne sanji shena ki birim sanang jana ki birim ba gomer kamro yerno komcho somne te di yerikir jan gedo shonzan ba sanji ko son pantom tarjembe chunan gogba lam dena demba ni gendan sarji sanjat pornam de nerko de sam somber chawson ro tardik sanji kan chigde komchong tardik jamna di tamba dem den namden konzo gerçe bir sanki yele tartı ran rever kamro komcho namba aksama ran la tram do la dor mombayen teyanji kamro jeje de ran komcho rever kamro ran do sanji domban chola lamdan gendan çok ji sır dor kavsun ro ter kavir jini kamro dengi nam kır komcho sumra sanla ngodan yitim çocuğun jamsun çoda dağlan semjen tamcı tarjerde xımlaşıyor bir kavsun roverusam lamasanki çodan somjola langson vardır kavsun roveruş dey pioneer ko sambanjo number çan chu konsten dengere no pemez sanki jabron ki tartık tartık Tartik donju kumchok sumbon tepsir thomar chaps. Ror shatene shanjim choko samki na janji tongshir sanki do parte mondan jibiranja niya no semki bena semjong jarla jong semna tongi ngo rang tobeki semjong tongi kyabara rang tobeki korbatina semdang semjong go jadang shipar nambra yowe na yishi manj yishi na shirna semki te yishi raksar tonda ni bajur jamthar sem gawa tivkir chokale nyevar tobi semki dona yang Deyi nimta ishi lab gobe sangi sarane tu rje tomza pa dribar pamshir semki jib jodo tsugdang jorwa kamdi rangjan mobe tongshi tsirda jarwena semki teyang mubam jong jib jodo tangbo sanib dambi varnyata kamki driba shugrir nam tagbe ishi gyache laksam tagba tagjib jodo tagbi sarnar gogan gangzi shir nam tag molam yondan gyache ver nambar mambi semki jisab jodo kam la dribjir sangi satena dribar pangshir semki jibsha wachir tarki tsir namba niyen de lama kumcho lama chokdang kumcho chongda len lamar len tse deyi chujo de rngunda yanlaga dambar kamjo chi ngozir gyardang tiyatrib lamam cho gongsu zorlu lagbar joji sa jirtar ngungi gyarwak trib jibjib shangchir kidib labagni bartar dev jinab dakkan rola pandon da shangchib semkib lablagni bir gyo terki jina langsam jubbar shati ipayon Tamba tsabmede gyatri shangchib sanhui mangtowa jang lhajin jikten kanjim chordong gyar gya tamcha tarvi lam gyar rdikbam tayi zatcham sonum per tarlamar nyecham ngunto ngelak drab tertir semchok kibra gyar mata sanngag jijik rkar zangrom chok rangrang muba yodam rtar gombe ngundu ruk tadar jig nang wang la so rgirde choglek songjin mambar sha chorchidu kirzog tonlab gombra sha ndurtur jirno jangdang semjinla rangli jari kam zir ngdan de semnal harqsar tamar jimban go yangi jinro driba drima sir de terji semnye de mug chunye de nga semnye de goxsur zogba rimba gum ndanang nidun girdi gomba yana taba jimbu mang tamju yujin bo jimzut le santin hundun roba leger tepji go pa wo 明天后天应该念到。好，下面我们开始讲一下那个，如意宝藏的啊，两节全部做到你们讲做内容，那么全部人家把个人打工咱都学嘛都东把特级讲了给上层，那就如果这里人可能。 야월 특기 시험을 위해서는 지금 판소샤라 소라도 공기 또반 포로 신지로
Their unsurpassed, profound, and wonderful Dharma is difficult to encounter in billions of aeons. I now see it, hear, receive, and uphold it, a vow to fathom the Tathagata's true meaning, to liberate all beings, thus generate the supreme bodhicitta. Now let's begin our class on the wish-fulfilling treasury.
那么加入一包藏论的话，我们前面就是现在正在讲那个，就惩戒啊，就是惩戒。
Previously, we have already studied the formation kalpa, and then we are studying the duration kalpa. Over here, there are various kinds of provision and names, as well as various ways, various concepts that's related to the livelihood of human beings that could be a bit different than the other descriptions. Last class, we have already covered on the general specific characteristics related to the duration kalpa, and today we're going to talk about the specific characteristics of duration kalpa. Within this text, the description, rather than talking about a specific area and description of a specific area, it is on the four great continents as well as the form realm, the desire realm, and the formless realm. In Abhidharma, there are similar descriptions about the animated and inanimate world. The description is a bit similar. In fact, these kinds of descriptions also included in the Yogacara Bhumi Shastra and Abhidharma Vibhasha Shastra, as well as Agana Sutra. So the teachings over here can be found in all of those sutras and shastras. Therefore, you shouldn't think that, oh, this is simply the philosophy and teachings given only by Longchenpa. This is only a teaching given in Tibetan Buddhism or some kind of folklore taught by Tibetan people. And not just the Tibetans. In fact, there are the three major areas in Tibet, the Kham, Amdo, and Lhasa. Maybe this is only from Lhasa, maybe this is just from the Kanri-Toga, since Longchenpa lived over there. Maybe he also went to Kham area and Amdo. Maybe not. In his later years, he stayed in Bhutan for a period of time. He lived for rather a short period of time, passed away before he reached the age of 60. A great master like him, with such profound wisdom and all the speech, all the Vajra speech that he had taught, it's something that definitely worth all of our faith. Therefore, if we were to make supplication to Longchenpa, we will definitely receive his great blessings. In such a way, our accomplishment, our personal accomplishment, as well as all of our activities to propagate the Dharma and benefiting sentient beings would make a great difference in all of our lives. So all of us sitting here, all of our audience over here, since many of you have already received the Four Nyingtics teachings, which is the essence of his profound heart drops. Since we have already received that, now we must feel quite content, since we have made such great connection to Longchenpa. On top of that, we're currently studying the Seven Treasuries, part of the Seven Treasuries. So we've studied a few texts already, such as the Treasury of Dharmadhatu, a Treasury of Pith Instruction. There are the Treasury of Supreme Vehicle and Philosophical School, as well as of the Supreme Nature. And we haven't studied the words and meaning, the treasury of words and meaning either.
这样的，所以
What I said here is to express that do not take this text lightly and think that it's just a folklore and it's just some kind of local philosophy and local teachings. Rather, it is a teaching that can be found in various tantras and sutras as well as shastras. I'm not going to list all of them, but you can cross-reference lots of the teachings from here to the other sutras and shastras, and you can definitely find the foundations of them there. Now let's continue our teaching. Over here it says that let's talk about the difference of duration. The desire realm beings would suffer from thirst and hunger. However, that is not experienced by the higher realm beings. The three continents has all kinds of food, but the continent of Uttarakuru only has rice. Over here, let's look at during the Kalpa duration. There are some differences between the beings living in different continents. For example, in the desire realm, let it be the animals or human beings, especially human beings, if we do not eat or drink, we will suffer from thirst and hunger. But of course, other than Jambudvipa, there are the other three continents such as Uttarakuru and Aparagadiniya and Parvavidiha continents. The Uttarakuru is rather different than the other three continents because they would not suffer from hunger and thirst, but the other three continents would, if the beings do not eat and drink on time, that is. For the higher realms, which refers to the form realm and formless realm, there is no such phenomena such as hunger and thirst, because the segmented meals are not existent in form and formless realm. In the desire realm, especially for human beings, because of our karma, especially because of the similarities of the karma to the beings of the three continents, therefore we would have all kinds of different types of food, rice, grain, and all kinds of food. The food in certain areas maybe could be different. In the Uttarakuru continent, which is the non-melodious sound continent, we have already explained the meaning of this title before. This particular name before. So I'm not going to repeat that. In the Uttarakuru, there are the rice that naturally just grows, some from trees, some from the ground. So in this continent, it would be quite different than the three other continents. In the desire realm, we place great importance to food, to meals. If we do not have food for 7 days, don't even mention about us. In fact, lots of the noble ones would die from hunger and thirst, such as King Bibisara, who was imprisoned by his son, Ajatashatru. At the time, his son ordered everyone not to send any food to his king, to King Bibisara. And the story recorded in the Amitaya Dhyana Sutra, it says that when the Buddha sent Madhikalayana to give teaching to King Bimbisara, he said that I'm really not interested in the Dharma right now because I am starving. If you really have to teach me the Dharma, could you teach me something that's related to food, to the segmented food? That's when Madhikalayana started to talk about all kinds of delicious food that's enjoyed by the four great heavenly kings, especially when it comes to the food that's enjoyed by Vaishravana. he said that, oh, this is such a great teaching, I shall make the aspiration to be reborn at the heavenly domain of Vaishravana. So he made such aspiration and took the rebirth over there after he died. Indeed, in this world, whomsoever you are, whatever status you are, you have, as long as you do not eat anything, then you would lose interest in everything else. Remember the other day when we received the empowerment, we didn't dare to drink anything in the afternoon, and after we received the empowerment, we finally could drink as much as we want, and drinking water is just like drinking the nectar from the celestial beings. Same applies to food. If you eat every day, you would feel that, oh, I don't have any appetite in eating whatever I have, I don't have any appetite from anything. But if you were to restrain from eating for 2 or 3 days, then you would be able to eat everything and anything, and you would feel that it tastes so good, and you would enjoy it as if you're enjoying the delicacy from the celestial beings. So when it comes to the meals and drinks, we have all kinds of different food in the 3 continents other than the north continent of Uttarakuru. They only have rice. I'm not sure if they would be very much accustomed to it, if they would still enjoy it every day. Since they only have rice, which reminded me that in Africa, the only crop that grows over there is corn. Other than that, they don't have anything else. But since people would eat that every day, I assume it's kind of like when I was little. In Tibet, people only eat tsampa 3 times a day. Other than that, there's barely anything else. Except in summer, there's some yogurt and there's some cheese. But also in the winter, sometimes we would take a little beef. Other than that, every day we would only eat tsampa. And we don't feel tired of it at all. Rather, we would very much enjoy it. So maybe the beings in Uttarakuru continent truly enjoy the rice since they had never tasted anything else. Animals, for example, such as cows and yaks, they only eat grass every day and they wouldn't get tired of it. That's their only food. So we can see that the karma of all sentient beings are indeed incredible. It is unfathomable. All the phenomena that we know, that we have studied and we have experienced are simply a speck within an ocean. We need to understand that. It is not that after studying in a university for a few years, you feel that you are truly matured and you know everything. That is barely true, because by that time you probably have already accumulated a whole bunch of dualistic thoughts, but other than that, you have not seen the whole world yet. Now let's continue to look at the next verse, where it says that from the desire realm, the beings enjoy nectar and the supreme dhyana food. So the celestial beings of the desire realm would enjoy the nectar, which is truly delicious. Whenever we taste anything that is delicious, we would say that, oh, this tastes like nectar. And then their nectars have a variety of colors. Usually in the desire heavens, the 4 great heavenly kings, all the way between the 4 great heavenly kings to the emanation of the others, heaven realm would enjoy all the nectars. They rely on the wish-fulfilling tree, which is very much based on their own merit, a variety of food would naturally manifest. Other than desire heavens, the form realm heavens and the formless realm heavens do not have any segmented meals. They would only take the dhyana as their food. However, for beings in the form realm, we have segmented meals. We also eat one bite after another. So for human beings, we have urines and feces. And for that reason, we probably live in rather quite a filthy environment. Including in my school right now, the toilet and washrooms is one of the biggest problem. Other than that, today I also addressed that if we were to have more tourists to come here, then we need to enforce our infrastructure such as washrooms. Otherwise, it would be very difficult for us to serve more tourists who want to visit here. From certain aspects of human beings, especially I think for monastics, sometimes may appear to be just like the celestial beings. There's a person in the Tibetans often talk about a story of a foolish person who went for quite a far place to visit, I think, Karmapa or some great master whom he felt just like a celestial being. And then he went there. This great master was in the toilet, and this person right away thought, oh no, this so-called master has to go to the washroom as well. He must not be a good master. Therefore, he started to generate lots of wrong views, and then he left this accomplished one. In fact, some great masters, even the accomplished ones, from their manifestation, they would also appear to be just like mundane beings like us. Unlike human beings, the celestial beings above the desire realm do not have skin or bone and flesh like all of us. They do not even have fatigue and suffering. In fact, they do not have those kinds of suffering like us, other than only a very small amount of suffering, such as dying at the moment of dying. In fact, their body is almost like the virtual body that we see on the internet nowadays, on the computer nowadays. It's not made of the flesh and blood. Rather, it is without any obstacle. It is not contaminated like ours. So the celestial beings do not have those. Now, the other three continents, other than Uttarakuru continent, on one hand, the human beings have urines and feces. On top of that, on the ground that they live, sometimes there is rain, sometimes there is not enough rain. All kinds of situations would happen. Sometimes there would be good crops and sometimes not so good in terms of harvesting, and sometimes fear and suffering. But the celestial domain, as well as the Uttarakuru continent in general, the crops would naturally grow over there. And the majority of the time, they would enjoy happiness and do not have any fear, do not have any insecurity. But for all of us living in this continent, in the desire realm, we have lots of different types of suffering. For example, the farmers, they completely rely on the weather. If it's too dry, then if there's drought, if there's flood, then they would not be able to harvest enough food. But for Uttarakuru continent, the North continent, it is a place where people would reap the fruition of virtuous karma. Therefore, they do not have the influctuation of the different harvests, and they do not have fear like people have in our continent.
都是现在人类的有些历史来看的话呢，其实人类历史的最开始的话呢，就是应该是这个各个国家都是农民国家，就是然后后来
majority of countries started off from being an agricultural country, and slowly, especially nowadays, lots of islands became economy or commerce-focused countries such as Singapore. Some places don't even have any agriculture. The water and food and even an apple would be imported. Over here, if we were to buy imported apple, we would consider this is really excellent apple. But sometimes when we look at the ways people would live in this world and the different people in different countries and their ways of living, we would definitely have a sense of awe to the different maturation of karma of sentient beings. Under the force of the different karma, people live in a variety of ways. Compared to Uttara-Kuru continent, I think we lack that security and stable lifestyle. The celestial realm is similar to that. The celestial realm is without any insecurity, and it's very safe, and it is without the fluctuation of harvest or worry for food. Other than the time of having to fight with their Asuras, majority of time they would enjoy all kinds of happiness that's brought forth by their merit. For human beings, we have rather very big distinctions between happiness and suffering, including our mindset. Sometimes we would have more happiness, sometimes we have less. And the majority of the time we would probably enjoy, we would be in the mindset without a particular leaning towards happiness or suffering. I think that probably partakes the majority of our time. Other than some maturation of karma that manifests in front of us, we would encounter a severe suffering or sometimes a great happiness. But the majority of the time, the happiness and suffering are very distinct. However, all of those kinds of feelings are based on your own karma. Therefore, there is no need to blame your bad mood onto the others. We are very much under the influence of our own karma, and we have to endure the fruition of our own karma. Other than that, there are some more differences. What are the differences then? Other than those previously stated similarities, the three continents, such as including Jambudvipa, Purvavidiha, and Aparagodania, these three continents, there are lots of business of buying and selling. In Jambudvipa, we would buy and sell such as crops and knives and food. On top of that, there's the human trafficking, which is also people would run it as a business. There's the buying and selling of animals. In the Purvavidiha, the majority of their business would be buying and selling the naturally grown rice. And then in the Aparagodania continent, the main merchant they would buy and sell is ox. Other than that, they don't have too much. For the Uttara-Kuru continent and the celestial beings, there is no buying and selling, there is no merchant, there is no business going on, because the lifestyle is very much based on their own merit. For celestial beings, for example, if they think of something that they want by their great merit, what they want would naturally actually manifest. I believe that's the kind of things that many of us would want to obtain, isn't it? The practitioners over here would very much wish to manifest a little house over here. In fact, at the beginning of the kalpa, we also had lots of the naturally ripened rice that would spontaneously grow. And then there's no buying and selling at that time. But then later, because people ate the essence of the ground or the flavor of the ground, for that reason, there's a decrease of human beings' merit. And then on top of that, and that is why the business trading as well as conflict slowly would manifest. So the three continents would have to build their houses, their residence. You need to specifically put in effort to make them, to build them. In Jambudvipa, there are lots of materials such as metal and wood. Those are the main materials that people would use to build houses. In the Parvavidiha continent, because there are lots of gold, therefore they would use that. And for the beings of Uttaraguru, would simply rely on the wish-fulfilling tree. In Jambudvipa and in the Aparagodania continent, there are lots of palaces, the luxurious palaces, other than the small huts. There are also houses that's made by cement, for example. Currently, we live in very different types of houses and residence. And I encourage all of you who live in different kinds of residence not to care too much about the structure, not to worry too much about the material that's built their house. It's not necessary to care too much about your house. On one hand, we cannot build more houses because it is not allowed to build more houses over here to avoid more people moving here. I understand that currently there are people who live with the others or share one room with the others. I understand it could make life a little bit inconvenient. In fact, not just the practitioners, even the parents or the siblings, after living for a long period of time, even couples, after living for a long period of time, they'd rather live apart from each other. The worldly beings nowadays, when they were young, they wanted to live together and be together at all times. But after a long period of time living together, they'd get very tired of each other. By looking at each other, hearing the sound of each other, they'd rather live in their own space. The practitioners nowadays, we all live over here. Sometimes we do encounter some difficulties and problems, but I think we are here enduring some inconvenience. Our goal is to attain realization and to receive the Dharma teachings. And throughout this process, if we were to experience some suffering, that is still worth a while. Look at the biography of Longchenpa. When he was relying on his master, he moved for 9 times and changed his residence for 9 times. And that is Longchenpa, the great master of his era. He experienced a lot of he also had to go through lots of diligence and lots of ascetic practices. If a great master like him had to go through all of that, then sentient beings like us who had great negative deeds, in order to receive the Dharma, it is just natural for us to go through some difficulties, but we're still able to stay here, to have shelter and to have a roof over our head is already something to be thankful for. On top of that, we have a shrine hall where we can listen to the Dharma teachings and we can study all together. Initially, after the passing of Phuntsok Rinpoche, I considered all of us to be extremely unfortunate because I thought Larangar would slowly wither. But later on, because of all kinds of supporting causes and conditions, all the way from 2007, 2006, we had the permission to build various kinds of large structures over here in Larangar. At first, we built the lecture hall for the female nuns, and that took about 2 years. And then later, the lecture hall for the lamas for 2 years. And then the lay practitioners lecture hall for 2 years, and then the Gandhara for 2 years, and then the hotel for another 2 years. Our recent project was the library, which also took 2 years to build. And by the year 2022, we do not have any permit to build any large architectures anymore. But I think our public infrastructures and all the buildings are already quite sufficient. In the past, whenever we have classes, only over 20 people could sit over there, and the rest of them had to sit outside. But look at us now. Nowadays, though we still have some difficulties from here and there, but at least we can sit together to study Dharma together and to give after-class presentation together. These all comes from the collective effort and our collective merit. Otherwise, it won't be easy for you to sit here to listen to it. It is not something that you can visualize and then it will pop up. It is really a fruition of lots of effort, including arguing with the contractors and working with various kinds of people. We should feel very content with whatever kinds of structures we have and houses and residence that you have. I encourage you not to complicate your living situation and not to try to beautify it too much, because if you were to spend too much time in building your house, then there was the example of an old monk back then when he spent all of his effort and money in building his house and making all kinds of constructions. After the house was finally finished, he decided to abandon the house and he decided to actually gift his house to me. And later he went to practice in the caves. So he didn't really enjoy his effort. Now let's look at the now we have already talked about the different kinds of residence. Let's look at the skin colors. There are 4 different types of skin colors in the 3 continents, in the desire realm and in the form realm and the Uttarakuru continent. The skin color is white. In the 3 continents, there are different types of clothing, such as cotton and silk, as well as brocade. In the Uttarakuru continent, as well as the 6 celestial domain, rather wears thin and gentle clothing. Over here, the beings of the 3 continents, their skin color, including the white, black, and beige colored. In the Long Agama Sutra, it says that there are the golden skin-colored people and the blue-colored, as well as the demon-colored. So on top of the 4 different ones. There are the three, that is gold, blue, and demon colors. So those are the 7 different types of skin colors. In Uttarakhuru, there's only one color that is white. In the 6th celestial domain of desire realm, there's the blue, yellow, red, and white, the 4 different colors, all the way between the Brahman heaven to the Akanishta heaven. In fact, all the skin colors are of the white. And in formless realm, of course, there's no color to their bodies at all. In Tibet, sometimes we would say that the celestial beings are all very bright in colors. Their skin color would be white, and the hell realm beings and the hungry ghosts would be rather darker. I think this kind of a collective understanding also applies everywhere in the world, even including movies. Whenever you look at a person who wears something black and then the cinematography would be rather darker when it comes to the scene of that person. So that person would look rather dangerous. And when it comes to the very bright and white colors, it is a sign of auspiciousness. Of course, there are exceptions. For the dark colors or the black ones, there are the wrathful deities. Also, they are the signs of auspiciousness. But in general, the dark and light colors, in the common sense or the majority of the times, they have the meaning of negative and positive associated to them. Then in terms of clothing, there are the brocades, silk, and cotton. And in Tibet, there's the felt woolen, the wool felt as well. In Tibet, there are different kinds of colors associated with clothing, and people would wear all kinds of jewels, such as coral and agates and conch and turquoise, as well as amber, gold, and silver, and so on, which is a symbol for richness of the ethnical richness. But I think for the Han Chinese, it seems that wearing many layers of clothing over here is a symbol of richness. But I suggest you to wear a little thinner in summer. When I look at lots of the monastic, you're wearing too much for the summertime. If you're wearing a big cape in the summer, what are you going to wear in the winter? It's too thick, and it's going to make you feel uncomfortable in the winter. It's not going to help you to adjust your body in the winter anymore. Over here it says that the Uttarakhuru continent and the 6 desire realms, the clothing they wear is rather very thin. In Uttarakhuru, their clothing would weigh for only 1 or 2 grams. But between the 4 heavenly kings all the way to the manifestations of others, celestial domain, the clothing is rather thinner, getting thinner and thinner, or lighter and lighter. The celestial beings' clothing are rather very light. Compared to that, the human beings' clothing are very heavy. The celestial beings' clothing are manifested because of their merit. On top of that, at the time of birth, the celestial beings are born with their clothing to signify a sense of shame and knowing the limit. Also, the colors of the clothing would change based on whatever they wish for. For example, if they want to wear red right away by having that thought, the clothing would be changed into red. But according to some Shastras, it says that the four heavenly kings are rather a bit different because at the time of their birth, whatever color they see first, the color would be the color that would follow throughout their lifetime. That's another description in the Shastras. According to the Abhidharma and Mahaprajna Paramita Shastra, the celestial clothings are manifested out of imagination. Just simply by imagining the celestial clothings, the wish-fulfilling tree would naturally blossom those clothings onto their branches. Such as, for example, you think that I want a lot of the monastic robes, then naturally it would manifest. Talking about the monastic robes, it reminds me of currently we have a storage house for the monastic clothing, the used monastic clothing. But currently there are so many of them, there is no way to properly dispose them. So I think it would be quite a waste to burn them because some of the clothing are very new, and it would be such a waste to burn them. On top of that, it would be a fire hazard to burn them. I think the monastics, I think it would be the best to keep your clothing clean, of course, but on top of that, do not change and do not buy new clothing at all times. The worldly beings usually would change clothing very frequently. They would wear different clothing throughout the day. They would change even a few times throughout the day. Some maybe once a day or twice a day. But for monastics like us, it's important for us to wash our clothes so that it's clean. But there's really no need for us to change our clothing so frequently. Because we have already given up the worldly life, and there is really no need to change our clothing in order to beautify ourselves. Recently, I've heard a lot of negative events and negative situations that happened because of the monastics' inappropriate activities. On one hand, I think it's necessary to expose them, but on the other, I think as monastics, we need to truly learn to be more content. Initially, we should definitely wear the garments that's made by discarded clothes, but nowadays that is not very much necessary since we have enough kinds of clothes. There are some monastics nowadays who specifically wear those kinds of clothing, and I think that is the kind of arrogance that we talked about the other day that takes the moral high ground. That is a special type of arrogance still, thinking that, oh, I'm so different and I am following the proper disciplines. I only eat one meal a day and I wear this clothes that's made from discarded garments. I think under the current situations that is not necessary. Nowadays in Larangar, we need to pay for the garbage disposal. Therefore, whomsoever hand over their used clothing, I think we need to start to take some actions. And things like such may seem to be very menial, but those kinds of menial things needs quite a lot of thoughts and lots of effort. Now let's look at the verse. We're going to look at the description of weather. and marriage, as well as the differences between the social status. In the three continents, there are the differences between the cold and hot, but that is not existent in Uttarakuru continent. Marriage is not existent in the higher realms, and the kinship and citizens as well as retinues are similar to the others. So over here we're going to look at the three continents, which has both the coldness and hotness of the weather. This year I heard that the weather is very abnormal in a variety of cities. Lots of people had heat stroke. Lots of people, in fact, suffered from heat stroke and died from it. It seems that many places had extreme weathers that is above 40 degrees, sometimes too cold and sometimes too hot. This kind of phenomena happens more and more often. In the three continents, there's the coldness and hotness of the weather, but in Uttarakuru, as well as the celestial beings, do not have coldness and hotness. Their weather and temperature would be rather perfect for them. In the three continents and in the celestial and the desire realms, celestial domain, there's the phenomena of marriage. But that is not existent in the Uttarakuru continent and the celestial domains above the Brahman heaven. In Uttarakuru, there's not much of the ritual of or ceremony of having a marriage. Also, in Uttarakuru, the beings do not follow monogamous style of relationship. The description is that if they want companionship just simply by having their imagination, then the wish-fulfilling tree would manifest a companion for them, and once they do not want to have a companionship, the companion would disappear. So that is a little different than the human being's lifestyle. The Uttarakuru and some of the celestial domains in the desire realm, in some ways it's kind of like animals, that they do not really have a self or a self-grasping towards their companions. In our world, we see that the crows usually would take one specific companion or take one as their spouse. Also, Mandarin duck is considered to be a very loyal spouse to each other. Other than the Uttarakuru continent and the celestial domains of the desire realm, anything above the Brahman heaven, there's no such phenomena such as marriage. Other than that, in the three continents as well as the six desire heavens, the kinship as well as the servants and the retinues are the same for all of them. Other than that, I think we also talked about how there's the Brahman heaven, there's the Brahman priest heaven, and then there's the
所谓的这个父母啊、男女啊，就是这些的话，那就是就没有嘛，就是只有
Great
这个
Brahman
下界
heaven,
的话，
where
那
the
就是
great
在有
Brahman
啊，
heaven
就
is
是这个
considered
清楚。
as the king,
然
and
后
the
接
priest
下
of
来的
Brahman
话
heaven is
呢，我
considered
们
as
再
the
讲一
ministers,
下
and then
这
the
个
Brahman heaven are the citizens. In
就
some
下
ways,
面
we
就
can
是讲
see
那个娘师方
their
面的啊，就是有财无量六
hierarchies
月天
in such a
有
way.
量无财呢，就是被居住，无有亲友同
On
所
top of
结
that, the
三者呢，就
higher
来
two
具
realms do
娘
not
啊，
have
就
any
是财
parents
财
or
这个亲
the
友，
spouse. There's
还有
no
呢，就是
such
三
kind
种
of
天堂呢，就是
hierarchies
上界
or
无。
such kind of
它这里讲
relationship.
是我们这个三者
And then
当
let's
三
look
者
at the
的话
next
呢，就是
verse
其
where
实
it
有这
talks
个钱
about
呐，就是财富和粮食都有
the
的。
wealth
然后白
and
居罗主呢，就是只有粮食没有财，就是
crops.
他们那边就是没有
In the
没有
three
这个财务
continents,
啊，就是也不需要
if
这
one
个
were
财
to
政
have
部门，就是
money,
不需
then
要这
you
个
would
会计出来，
be
就是
able to
就
accumulate
天
wealth
天的
and
吃这个玉米就可以了。
crops. But in Uttarakuru,
然后六月
there's
天的话呢，就
only
是有这个
crops but
财务，
not
但是他们是没有
wealth
粮食，
because
就是
they
各
don't
种
need
什么
wealth.
金银财宝
They
啊、树
don't
啊这
need
些有的，
any
但
of
是他们粮都
those
没有。
kinds of
然后繁重
content
天以
to
上的话呢，
take
就是
care of
实
what
际
is
上是
the
没有这个财，
incoming
也
of
没有
the
这个
crops
粮
or
食。
the
以色界的话
outgoing
呢，
of
就
the
是不需要
crops.
这些这个。
The
其实
former
色界
realm
还
do
是
not
是
need
挺
any
快乐的，对
crops,
吧？
and it must be
然后
very
还有
happy
那
for
个
them. They do
我
not
们这
need
个三
wealth
洲
and do
当中
not
的
need
话呢，就
crops.
是也有财
In
也
the
有粮
three
食，还有呢，
continents,
我们这
we
么什么这个
have
亲
both
友啊，
wealth
就是这
and
些也是这
continents
样的
as well
啊，
as
就是
relatives.
还有这个白居楼主的话呢，就是就没有这些。那么
But
于天啊，
these
就
are
是
not
这
existent
个六
in
个
the
于天的话
Uttarakuru
呢，就是
continent.
亲人和财子执着啊，这些都是有的。只有
In
凡
the
不天以
six
上的话呢，就
celestial
是没有
heavens,
啊，就是这个是大家
the
应该清
beings
楚。
also would grasp
然后我们
onto
再
the
讲一个俗
relatives
词
as
的
well
话
as
呢，
their
华
wealth,
生无事，
but
欲有
not
事，
the
心
beings
也
above
自
the
身边
priests
啊，
of
就是意
Brahman
自身
heaven.
边。
Now let's
或
look
以
at the
他者
next
而
verse.
上
It is says
行，
that
此
since
外
it is
下则不见
emanated,
上。
therefore
那
there
下
is
面
no
就是讲那
corpse.
个
But the
就
rest
是
of the
尸体
beings that
啊，
have
就是
corpse.
什么都要去管，就是属于
Long
空
Chenpa
空
over
的
here talks about
这
the
个
corpse.
那么
He
这个
really want to
化身的
be,
众
he
生呢，
really
就是
wanted
他
to
没
be
有
very
实体，就是
thorough
原因是
about
什么呢？
this
因为化身的
description.
众生是
So the
它就
sentient
像
beings
属
who
于
have
特
the
别就是身
emanated
体很
body
轻
do
的，
not
就是
have
像光
any
一样的。而且呢，就
any
是它里面
corpse.
也没有什么这个
The
身
reason
体
is
骨
because
啊、
their
血肉啊，
body
就
is
是这些
rather very
骨骼
light.
血
It's
肉这
just
些
like
都没有。然后其余的我们的这个
made
三
of
个这周
it's
的，
because
就
their
是
bodies
或
are
者是
made
三
of
圣的，就
light,
是太森
therefore
啊，就
there's
是这
no
些三圣的话
flesh,
呢，
no
那
bone,
与
no
亲死亡的时候呢，就是都有
blood.
这个尸体。
But
那这样一来的
the
话呢，
beings
就
of
是
the
一般
three
的话，就
continents
是人类啊、旁生
have
当
the
中
three
的话呢，
types
就
of
是还有
birth,
恶鬼
and
当中呢，就是有这个
at the
很多
time
这
of
个
death
这
there's
些呢，就是有
the
这个尸体吧，
corpse
就
that would
是
be
就不属于
left
化圣的，
out.
就是那些人类和这些当中。然后
That would
天
be
人和
left
地狱呢，
behind.
就是大家都
So
知道是
the
它是这
human
个
beings and
死的时候
animal
呢，就是死
beings
是它的
would
身
have
体里面，就
corpse.
是没有
Also
那
the
个
hungry
真正的
ghosts,
这个尸体啊，就是天人死
because
的死的
these
已经
group
化
of
光了，
beings
就是
do
就
not
没有
belong
了。
to the
当然，我们
emanation.
人类当中呢，有
However,
些虽
the
然是
celestial
太
beings
森，但是
and
最
the
后
hell realm
就
beings
红生
at the
成就
time
的
of
时候呢，
death,
就是
their
就可能
conscious
就是没有
simply
这个尸
would
体，
just
但这个是比较特殊的案例吧，就是也不是什么那个所有
transmigrate,
的
and
这个
then
主
the
编就是这
real
样的，就是这个
corpse,
特殊的案例，
there's
人
no
和的
real
这种
corpse. At
这
the
个世
time
界
of
当中
death
是
of
都
the
可以有
celestial
的，
beings,
就是都
their
可以有
body
的。
would
然而，我们这
then
个人
merge
世
into
间的话，
light,
还
and
有
then
跟
would
其他不
disappear.
同的话
But
呢，
for
比如
human
说
beings,
天
since
人呢，
we
就
are
是
born
他
from
只有这
womb,
个七细
other
分界
than
的
the
这
very
种
rare cases
就
of
是
having
天人是没有七
attaining
细
the
分界
rainbow
的痛
body
苦，
that
只有
is
呢就
without
是四
any
种的痛苦。而我们人
corpse,
类呢不同的，
the
就是
rest
在
of
死
all
亡的
of
时
us
候呢，一
would
个是他
have
的
the
这个意识
corpse.
转移，就是这
The
个是
grave
个
is the
很大的
pain
痛苦。
for the
还有呢，就
celestial
是
beings
七
since
细
they
分
do
界，
not
七
have
细
any
分界当
breath.
时死的时
Therefore,
候
the
呢，就是
gravest
就
pain
我们
is
很多
the
人就是只是
transmigration
个
of
泡
their
的话呢，死的
consciousness.
时候传
But
奇
for
啊，
human
就是
beings, since
就
we
特
have
别
breath,
就是痛苦
are at the time of death not being able to keep going with the breath, and the fear of death would be the gravest pain. On the other hand, for the hell realm beings, they would take a great delight in death, since they will take a better rebirth. If you were to say that I am not afraid of death, then maybe you are living as a hell realm being. But other than those kinds of special cases, people and beings are usually quite terrified of death. For human beings or any other beings in the six realms, if you want to travel upwards, one way is to rely on your own miraculous power. For example, if you were to get miraculous power after attaining the fourth dhyana, then you can rely on your miraculous power to travel to the Treasury heaven. Another method is by relying on the miraculous powers of the celestial beings, the Guru or Vidyadharas, just like lots of the biographies and talks about their journey to the Sukhavati by relying on the other noble beings' power. I remember that Khenpo Deba, at the time of him giving a class, his student said that, I have too much negative karma, I will not be able to be reborn in Sukhavati. Khenpo Deba at that time appeared to be extremely unhappy, and he said that, I didn't say that it's because of your merit and because that you have great power you would be able to be reborn in the Sukhavati. I'm saying that Amitabha has the great power and great compassion that could take you to Sukhavati. So he scolded that student who's an old monk, a monk without much faith, thinking that he would not be able to be reborn in Sukhavati since he doesn't have that capacity. And the Khenpo said, I'm not saying that you alone have the capacity to be reborn in Sukhavati, rather I'm saying that by relying on the power of Amitabha, you would be able to be reborn in Sukhavati. So over here in the verse it says that we would not be able to see whomsoever is above us, for example, the celestial beings and the four heavenly kings and so on. But the four heavenly kings wouldn't be able to see whatever is higher, such as Trishrimshas, and Trishrimshas wouldn't be able to see the Dushita. So one would not be able to see whatever is higher. So today we will stop here.